Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Emily Sue.
And I'm Raymond Yeung. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
Health Minister accepts criticism over handling of rotten meat scandal amid calls for investigation into McDonald's role.
Anti-Occupy Central leaders boast of signature campaign success, while Chambers of Commerce issue warnings.
Monetary Authority chief rejects calls to use exchange fund for infrastructure and social welfare spending. Health Minister Yeung has accepted criticism over the government's handling of the rotten meat scandal, while one of its top officials accused McDonald's of misleading the Center for Food Safety during its investigations.
Executive from the parent company of the disgraced mainland supplier to McDonald's admitted its food safety standards were poor and promised sweeping management and production line changes to prevent another fiasco.
The scandal erupted more than a week ago when a television report exposed the Shanghai Husi Food Company for poor hygiene standards, accusing it of selling rotten meat to fast food chains and falsifying expiry dates. Husi's parent company, the US-based OSI Group, has sent its top executives to Shanghai for damage control, and today they admitted that their own investigation had found standards were indeed below par. The company has decided to stop using products from all Husi plants and promised sweeping changes to its China operations, including its management team. A quality control center will be set up to better supervise the production line. Here in Hong Kong, both the government and McDonald's are under fire after they first played down the scandal and confirmed a week later that the fast food giant had imported 380 tons of pork and chicken from Husi over the past year. This afternoon, lawmakers on LegCo's food safety panel held a 90-minute meeting with officials to demand answers.
We have urged the government to launch a full investigation on the McDonald's food scandal. And we hope that the government can do that forcefully so that the public can understand what happened. And that the McDonald's should be more transparent and be more responsible and put public health and food safety on the top priority rather than the enterprise interest.
McDonald's has been severely criticized for initially denying using Husi food, then making a U-turn on Thursday and pulling a range of items off its Hong Kong menu. The Center for Food Safety today explained how McDonald's had been evasive, misleading investigators by telling them it had imported meat from Husi's Hebei plant rather than from Shanghai.
I think initially the Center for Food Safety would like to have a face-to-face meeting, and then at the end it was compromised to have a teleconference meeting.
Food and Health Secretary Yeung was diplomatic, but the finger-pointing was clear.
It was true that the Center for Food Safety did encounter certain difficulty in getting in touch with the management of the company.
But still, the government was less than forthcoming today with its broader investigation into 8 other fast food chains. The Food Safety Ordinance requires restaurants to keep records of their imported foodstuff for 24 months and produce them when necessary. Such records have been inspected in 7 of those restaurant chains, while one is still ongoing, but the government is refusing to name it. Even McDonald's had failed to provide those records in a timely and accurate manner, the health minister said.
We do accept criticism on this particular point, including I myself have quoted this particular information wrongly initially. As I said, the public expect the government to be very proactive in managing all these food safety incidents, but we also expect the industry to be cooperative with the government regulator in terms of providing timely and accurate information.
McDonald's handling of the fiasco so far has been a public relations disaster. The head of the chain in Hong Kong yesterday read out a public apology, but only attracted further criticism by refusing to answer questions, including whether it had lied about selling tainted meat to fast food lovers.
A group opposing the Occupy Central movement has warned the government not to let the civil disobedience campaign negotiate political reforms with Beijing on behalf of pan-democrat lawmakers.
Group leader Robert Chow also promised to renounce his right to claim British nationality after his activism sparked criticism about his loyalties. Leaders of the Alliance for Peace and Democracy were at government headquarters at Tamar this afternoon to meet with the three ministers in charge of the political reform process. They reflected their opposition to the Occupy Central movement, backed by the 930,000 signatures they have collected over the past 9 days.
We are not trying to enforce the signatures onto the government. We think that this only represents the thinking of a group of Hong Kong people, although it is a very significant group of people.
The alliance got its biggest boost yet on Saturday when Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying controversially announced he would join the signature campaign, followed by Health Chief Ko Wing-man, Development Minister Paul Chan, and Treasury Undersecretary James Lau. Home Affairs Chief Zhang Tak-sing also confirmed today he had signed his name. Chow dismissed concerns that the chief executive's signature will pressure his ministers and loyalists to join the campaign, alienating the pro-democracy camp even further.
Maybe the media thinks the CE's signature is very, very important. But as far as we're concerned, if and when he signs, he would be one of 935,000 signatures. That's all.
The original goal was to collect more than 780,000 signatures, the number of ballots collected during Occupy Central's unofficial 10-day referendum on political reform. About 700,000 of the voters support giving the public a greater say in the nomination process for chief executive candidates in 2017. Chow said the fact that his group managed to surpass this target in only 9 days shows the Occupy movement merely reflects the views of the minority.
What we do not want to see is a non-vote carrying organization like Occupy Central being presented as the governing body of all the different pan-democratic parties and be able to dictate terms.
Most of the city's 27 pan-democrat lawmakers have vowed to join Occupy's bid to stage a full-scale street blockade of Central to pressure Beijing into granting Hong Kong a genuine universal suffrage package. Chow insisted that only the 70 legislators elected by the people of Hong Kong have the right to negotiate political reform with Beijing. On the related note, Chow suggested that media tycoon Jimmy Lai could be the one funding and controlling Occupy from behind the scenes. He also hit back at critics who slammed him for claiming to care about Hong Kong when he was one of the 50,000 so-called elite local families who were offered British nationality after the handover in 1997.
Today I've instructed my lawyers to find out how exactly can one truly renounce the right to claim a British passport. I will proceed to totally, completely, and absolutely renounce the right to claim a British nationality.
In another development, Chief Secretary Carrie Lam took to the US-based Wall Street Journal to note that at the moment, the government can't get the two-thirds majority support eventually required to approve a final reform package. She warned that if there's no consensus, constitutional development will come to a standstill and harm government operations. 5 influential business and trade groups have warned those who plan to blockade Central they could be violating other people's rights by paralyzing the business district.
They said staff won't be forced to accept their views, but those joining Occupy Central must face the legal consequences. ATV's Winner Wong reports.
The chairman of 5 business and trade groups joined forces as they renewed their condemnation of the Occupy Central movement. The Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce, Chinese General Chamber of Commerce, Chinese Manufacturers Association, the Federation of Hong Kong Industries, and the Real Estate Developers Association said they respect people's right to express their opinions, but that was not the problem.
If you do illegally take over a particular area or territory in Hong Kong, causing disruption to traffic, to normal work, then in fact you are causing a lot of damage to the economy of Hong Kong. Then what will happen is that business activities and also normal social activities will be interrupted.
The business lobby urged activists planning to occupy Central in the push for genuine universal suffrage to think about the rights of others who work in the business hub. They warned that as Hong Kong is small and interlinked, paralyzing one part of the city could affect emergency services. The Chinese General Chamber of Commerce warned of severe economic damage, with the tourism sector hit the hardest because the action could deter visitors. The business leaders insisted there are many legal ways for the pro-democracy camp to make its voice heard. They said their own staff would not be forced to accept the views of the 5 chairmen, but any Occupy Central activity should be done in their own time. Winna Wong, ATV News.
The Monetary Authority has rejected calls to dip into the exchange fund to pay for infrastructure projects and social welfare.
The head of the city's de facto central bank said every cent in the massive fund has to be saved for a rainy day. The Monetary Authority's exchange fund, which stands at a whopping $3 trillion, was set up to ensure the stability of Hong Kong's currency and its banking system. But only $800 billion is required to support the city's monetary base and underpin the peg with the US dollar. This has prompted politicians to demand that money from the fund be diverted to pay for costly infrastructure projects as well as social welfare measures. But Hong Kong's de facto central banker, Norman Chan, shot down the suggestion, insisting the fund needs to save every cent for a rainy day. Citing the global recession in 2008, Chan said without the exchange fund's massive reserves, the authority could not have restored the confidence of bank depositors and maintained market stability. Chan said the authority must have sufficient assets so it can launch necessary actions to protect the SAR against speculative attacks and unexpected financial crises. Overseas, the United Nations has called for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, where more than 1,000 Palestinians and 43 Israeli soldiers have been killed in the past 20 days.
The call came as Muslims around the world observed the Eid festival, marking the end of the holy fasting month of Ramadan. ATV's Arthur Urquiola reports.
Palestinians in the West Bank have been shopping for traditional items for Eid, the festival at the end of the holy fasting month of Ramadan. But there was little joy in the air. The atmosphere was worse in the Gaza Strip, where more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli air, land, and sea attacks over the past 20 days. Shops in Gaza sealed their doors, and Palestinians wandered through the ruins to salvage what they could from their former homes. The despair of the 1.8 million people trapped in a tiny area forced some in the town of Khan Yunis to attack the office of the International Committee of the Red Cross, the ICRC. They burned furniture inside as a protest against the lack of assistance for the victims of the Israeli offensive.
But we understand the frustration and the fears and the high expectations that the Palestinians they have with the ICRC. There's a lot of hospitals as well which are under fire, so there's a lot of tension sometimes.
In a hospital in Khan Yunis, doctors are monitoring the health of a baby born an orphan. Shema Hussein was delivered after her mother died from her injuries. The infant's father and siblings were also killed in an Israeli airstrike. Across the border, Israel buried a soldier, one of 43 to die in the violence. At the UN in New York, the Security Council called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire extending beyond Eid. The Palestinian envoy noted that it took almost 3 weeks for the world to act.
They should have adopted a resolution long time ago to condemn this aggression and to call for this aggression to be stopped immediately, to provide the Palestinian people with protection, and to lift the siege against our people in the Gaza Strip.
The Israeli ambassador accused Muslim countries of giving Hamas, which rules Gaza, the funds to build rockets.
The bigger picture is the demilitarization of Hamas would allow, at the end of the day, Gaza to be restructured and rebuilt again.
But with Israeli troops on standby at the frontier, the UN resolution has done little to ease tensions in Gaza. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
Still to come on ATV's main news tonight, Japanese police arrest teenage student who admitted killing her schoolmate.
Vincenzo Nibali wins Tour de France, helping Italy ease pain of Football World Cup disaster.
October 1962, 13 days of world powers confrontation.
There was panic. There's no two ways about it. People thought that this was a real thing.
One step away from nuclear war.
It's quite possible that tomorrow we will not be alive.
On the brink of overwhelming devastation, what brings the deadly foes back to the table? All About documentary, DEFCON 2, Cuban Missile Crisis, tonight at 10. ATV World Spectacular.
You Shaolin monks are nothing but fools.
Fighting to defend Shaolin Temple.
I do not know whether we'll be able to survive this time.
Very soon your Shaolin Temple will be nothing but ashes.
The Kung Fu master fights his way out of devastation.
Okay, Cord. Your father died by my hand. Our Hung Fist must not be lost. You must learn it. You must be strong. You must be hard.
Kung Fu Master Revenge 2, Wednesday night at 8:30. Mr. Asia Craze, rocking the world. ATV Mr. Asia Contest 2014 is now open for application.
喺網上睇到份工，話借個銀行戶口俾間公司用就有糧出。
有冇去見工啊？
梗係冇啦。
我見嗰份工要開工前交錢登記同上堂，即走啦。梗係啦，冇事。
好險喎！
有啲人仲會喺合約度出術呃人添。
揾工都係實際啲好。
人工高又唔使學歷同經驗嘅就要小心啦。遇到求職陷阱，就揾勞工處或者警方幫手啦。
Mega hit 900, escaping the baby's birthday curse.
Get Dr. Glass and call the OR crew. Jim, what's happening?
We have to get the baby out.
Is he going to be born this day like the book said? Because that's his fate.
You made this happen. You and it.
More dangers are coming close.
Don't you dare threaten my son. It's already done. He belongs with me.
Ghost Whisperer, Season 5, Friday night at 9.
A study by the Chinese university has dismissed the common perception that thin people can escape diabetes.
The study found that the potentially deadly disease affects 10% of the city's population. ATV's Ann Chang reports.
At least 20,000 people were admitted to local hospitals in 2012 for diabetes, which killed 398 people that year. A joint study by the Chinese University and the Institute of Diabetes and Obesity analyzed 10,000 cases between 1995 and 2009. The study found that 10% of Hong Kong's population is diabetic. More surprising is that 30% of diabetics are of normal weight.
So I think the message is diabetes affects young and old, affects lean and overweight. And I think people need to know their risk and actually take action because diabetes is preventable and its complications are preventable and treatable.
Family history and personal lifestyle are key causes of those who are affected at an earlier age. If either parent has diabetes, the risk is increased 3 times and 6 times higher if both parents are diabetics. Chan said proper assessment and treatment in the first 5 years after a person contracts diabetes can reduce the chances of blindness and kidney failure. Since diabetes often has no obvious symptoms, many people are unaware that they have the disease. This patient says because people don't expect to become diabetics, they have no knowledge about the disease and are not motivated to know more about it. With diabetes expected to affect more people, experts recommend a healthy lifestyle and regular checkups to keep it at bay. Ann Chang, ATV News.
Overseas again, a teenage girl in Japan has admitted killing and dismembering a schoolmate.
And the UN says the downing of a Malaysia Airlines plane over eastern Ukraine could be a war crime. Here's Arthur Urquiola.
The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Navi Pillay, says the shooting down of a Malaysian passenger plane over eastern Ukraine earlier this month violated international law and may be a war crime. She demanded a prompt, independent, and impartial investigation into the crash, which killed all 298 people on board during a flight from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. The West believes pro-Russian rebels shot down flight MH17, while Moscow and the separatists have blamed the Ukrainian army. International monitors have still had trouble reaching the crash site because of fighting there. A rare bolt of lightning triggered panic among beachgoers in Los Angeles.
I thought it was like a bomb almost. And it was the loudest thunder I ever heard, and it was like a scene out of Jaws. All the mothers were going in to grab their kids.
A 20-year-old man who was struck by lightning was declared dead in hospital. 8 others were injured. Most of them were in or near the sea at the time. The 15-minute storm struck as about 20,000 people were at Venice Beach. A 16-year-old girl in the southwestern Japanese city of Sasebo has been arrested for murdering another teenager. Police said the suspect admitted beating and strangling 15-year-old Aiwa Matsuo. Reports quoted investigators as saying tools used to decapitate the victim and sever her left hand were found near the body of a flat where the suspect lived alone. The police were alerted by the victim's parents when she didn't return home. The girls' high school said the pair were believed to be friends. Reports said the suspect's mother died last year, and her father remarried and lives elsewhere in the same city. 2 Japanese tourists were injured when a luxury train derailed in western Thailand. The train, which was traveling from Singapore, ran off the tracks in Ratchaburi province, 100 kilometers west of Bangkok. 2 women suffered minor injuries, while the rest of the passengers made their way to Bangkok on buses. Arthur Ricchiola, ATV News.
Time now for sports with Bo Liang.
And there's a new hero for Italy, Bo.
Indeed, and it's cycling king Vincenzo Nibali. He's restored Italy's pride after their footballers were knocked out in the group stage of the World Cup. Nibali, the first Italian to win cycling's top race in 16 years, also joined an elite group of riders who clinched all 3 Grand Tours. The final sprint began in Evere, and early on Italian Vincenzo Nibali and his Astana teammates were given champagne to toast a successful Tour de France. Riders passed iconic landmarks as they made their way to the heart of the French capital. Over the skies of the Champs-Élysées, the Patrouille de France unveiled the national colours of red, white and blue. This year's tour was marred by several crashes, and the last stage was no different when Jean-Christophe Péroud of France crashed with 43 kilometres to go. It was a dramatic final sprint as Marcel Kittel of Germany powered towards the finish line to beat Alexander Kristoff of Norway for his 2nd consecutive stage victory and the 4th of the 101st edition of the Tour. But all eyes were on Nibali, who completed the race with a winning margin of 7 minutes and 37 seconds, the biggest since 1997. In winning cycling's most prestigious prize, he delighted Italian fans.
We were out of the World Cup very soon. Now Italy is at the top of the world with Nibali, and with his history, we are very proud of Nibali.
Nibali is the first Italian winner of the Tour since 1998 and the 6th man to win all 3 Grand Tours, the French, Italian and Spanish. In other sports news, a 5th player signs up for Liverpool and Daniel Ricciardo wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. Drama and rivalry between teammates made the Formula 1 race in Budapest an unforgettable event. The highlight of the Hungarian Grand Prix was the battle for top 3 between Red Bull's Daniel Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso of Ferrari, and the Mercedes pair of Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. In a controversial move, Hamilton disobeyed orders to allow current overall leader Rosberg overtake him.
Okay, Lewis, if you let Nico pass this lap, please. Let Nico pass on the main start-finish straight.
The Briton held off his German teammate and rival for the World Championship to finish 3rd despite starting from the pit lane. Rosberg came in 4th, but is now only 11 points ahead of 2nd place Hamilton. Australian Ricciardo cruised to victory and took the checkered flag just ahead of Fernando Alonso. In golf, Tim Clark has clinched his 2nd PGA Tour title after beating American Jim Furyk in the Canadian Open in Montreal. The South African bogeyed his opening hole, but then carded 6 birdies to win on 17 under 263. Yeung, who missed a 15-foot birdie putt at the final hole, settled for second place with a 16 under 264. Liverpool have completed the signing of centre-back Dejan Lovren for $33 million. The Croat is the 3rd Southampton player to join the Merseysiders, who are returning to Champions League action in the new season. 14 daredevils took the plunge in the annual cliff diving World Series in Portugal's picturesque Azores Islands. Competitors jumped from more than 27 metres in 3 different locations in front of a panel of judges and 2,000 spectators. American Stephen Lebeau won the top spot after scoring the highest marks. A look at the weather before we go. It was mainly fine today, apart from a few isolated showers. Temperatures range from 27.2 to 33.2 degrees, while the relative humidity was between 64 and 89%. Winds were light to moderate, coming in from the southeast. Let's check on the ultraviolet reading. The maximum recorded for the day was 12. Tomorrow's UV index will be around 12 as well. Now for a look at the weather in the region. It is mainly fine over most parts of southern China. Meanwhile, an area of low pressure is bringing unsettled weather to the seas east of the Philippines. And now the satellite images. Unstable conditions are affecting the northern part of the South China Sea. Here's what we can expect over the next few days. It will be fine tomorrow, but expect some isolated showers. Temperatures will range from 28 to 33 degrees. More hot weather in the following couple of days. Here are the latest pollution readings under the Air Quality Health Index. General stations are at 223, meaning the health risk is low. Roadside levels are at 4 and the health risk is moderate. Finally, here's the weather around the world.
That's our main news for Monday night. We'll have an update in 1 hour. I'm Raymond Yeung.
I'm Bo Leung.
And I'm Emily Sue. Thank you for watching ATV. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Coming up, leisure time. Drive it. Documentary World. Oceans, the last great unknowns on the planet. Scientists explore deep down in the fascinating seas.
The lesson we might learn under those circumstances is that we should not let single species be depleted to 70, 80, or 90%.